Okay, recording this video after close trade Tuesday, the 6th of June 2017. Do hope you are doing well. We're having an awful day here in Sydney, Australia. It's the next day, Wednesday morning, and it is pelting down with rain. The winds come up, really ugly day. Having had 2 or 3 weeks of beautiful weather, nice surf, good offshore breezes, really pretty days. But I think we're going to set in for some bad weather here for the next week or so, which is a shame. Anyway, hope you're doing well where you are. Now, I've got a lot of charts to kind of rip through quickly in this video, but before doing that, 2 things I want to say. First one is thank you to everybody's feedback on the Bitcoin video that went out a few days ago. This turns out to be one of the biggest videos I've ever done. The views on the website and the views on YouTube were monster. I think over 1,400 views on YouTube alone, which is fantastic. And there were some kind of useful comments from feedback from that video, and as a result of that, I've added on some links and useful information on Bitcoin and Ethereum below that video. So I'll link back to that below this video if you're interested in checking any of those things out. Of course, in the meantime, Bitcoin and Ethereum have both rocketed to new highs, the both of them, so they're kind of still powering ahead. And it's interesting, a lot more commentary kind of coming in about cryptocurrencies and the bubble and blah 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 kind of going forward. I think all of that's kind of interesting stuff. I'm holding on because I think we've got some more legs to this whole idea of cryptocurrencies. Second thing to say is finally, if you're a user of multi-charts, the better indicators for multiple timeframes is now available for multi-charts 10. We've got an installer for the 32-bit version and the 64-bit version of multi-charts 10. And again, I'll link below this video to the information on that. You can get a discount code for the first month if you want to check it out. Apologies, it's taken a long time. I don't know, you know, these software projects always take far longer than I expect. There are always kind of bugs and wrinkles kind of along the way, but finally we got it out there. So it's out there, been using it on the multi-charts platform. Looks pretty good. All right, a lot of charts to talk about, and apologies, sometimes these videos just run really long because I've got a lot of things I want to kind of say and a lot of charts I want to show you. Sometimes I think it'd be easier just to talk to one chart and just go into detail on one chart. This video is going to have a bunch of charts. The thing to concentrate on this is what the trending system is saying. So remember, on this multiple time frame charts, the red bars show strength and uptrends, and the white bars show weakness and downtrends. And just in general, what we're doing is we're setting into another phase of, you know, trending moves in a bunch of markets. I think there are some things that are kind of starting to roll over, and there are some opportunities to be had to get into some nice kind of trending moves as they develop. First thing to talk about is equities versus bonds. This is my 4500 tip bar chart on equities. It's the highest time frame tip bar chart that I use, very useful for showing videos. And a chart like this actually gives you about 10 or 12 days of back history. If I toggle between the system view and the traditional view, you can see each of these gaps is a day. That's the open and close of each kind of day. So we've got 10 or 12 days of trading going on in this chart, and you can see it's been a really nice kind of uptrend. Trending systems kept us long almost the entire time. We had a little bit of weakness here after a left shoulder being put in with our pullback to end of trends on the lowest, and then the intermediate time frame, and then exhaustion by bearish divergence. We're always going to have a little bit of weakness after a pattern like that. We get caught by support in the highest time frame. There it is. It's a pullback and an uptrend, and then we go and make that full move to an end of trend on the highest time frame. Now, over the last couple of days, so you can see that kind of set in at the end of last week, we had all these exhaustion and end of trend patterns kind of show up on the lowest time frame, the intermediate time frame, and the highest time frame. All these end of trends plus exhaustion by bearish divergence. So from that, we're likely to see a little bit of weakness, some profit taking, and let's see kind of where it goes. And that is the weakness that we've had, all those white bars ever since the last kind of 2 days. Let's see if we're going to test back up a little bit. The levels that I'm looking at for a break continued down at this 24, 27, 50 level. That there are a couple of supports there on the low and intermediate time frame. That gets broken, we're going to have a little bit of a sell-off as we go make resistance to support on the highest time frame. But we're due for a little bit of a correction, having had this really nice strong rally over the last 10 days. Now, day trading with today's activity, we've been plagued by these low range days. I'm glad I didn't trade on Monday because it was a low range day. Today ended up being a low range day, but at least it was kind of a little bit faster in the morning. But the activity with this waterfall decline that you can see, all this weakness, white bars, was happening overnight. This is the close on Monday. This is the overnight session. This is the open on Tuesday. And you can see there's a waterfall decline. But it's set up with all that weakness after exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, and a flush pattern. All these are white bars showing that we're breaking supports, and so we're going to have weakness, and then we finally break into this downtrend. Again, a left shoulder is made with a nice little pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame, pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame, and we rally into our pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame. So I'm always looking for those pullback to end of trends to ripple through the time frames. Left shoulders are made by the lowest time frame, then the intermediate time frame, and then the final move is made, pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame. My best trade for the day was getting long here. What was I long at? 29.50 into this break here. I'd stretched my target out to 34.50, didn't make it. Had to get out at 33 on this weakness here. But that was kind of okay. The rest of the day, a little bit messy. It ended up being a lowish range day. I think that was kind of tricky trading, but that was the best of it, I think, with today's activity. Now, from time to time over the last couple of months, been talking about the shifting backwards and forwards between equities and bonds and so on. We've had this kind of pretty strong rally in equities going on. I think we've kind of maybe run our course for the time being. We've, on the flip side, started seeing real strength on the bond market. So you can see here again the system view of the world. We had pullback to end of trends on the lowest, on the intermediate time frame, syncing up with cyclical support on the highest time frame, and there's our strength with these red bars breaking above resistances into uptrends. So we've had one move here, and now we're breaking a double. We're breaking resistance on these two time frames. So the bond market is looking strong. The equity market is looking a little bit kind of toppy, and let's see kind of where that goes from there. On the currency side of things, this move on the dollar index is really starting to gather steam. So you can see we topped out with exhaustion buy, bearish divergence on the dollar index. We had pullback to end of trends on the lowest time frame, on the intermediate time frame there, plus cyclical resistance. We just kind of blew past on the highest time frame, and we started to break into weakness here. So again, all the white bars here with this beautiful low risk entry point right at that point there. And I think this continuation of the dollar weakness is going to continue until we get exhaustion sell on the downside. And the two biggest components of the dollar index that are going up are Japanese yen and the euro. And again, so let's look at the Japanese yen here. We've got our cyclical support on the highest time frame come in here. We had our pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame. On the intermediate time frame, that was actually on the highest time frame as well. And then we got all this strength kind of going on in the Japanese yen. So the red bars showing strength, and we're starting to rally there. We've got a triple going on. No, it's not a triple. We're just breaking above there, but we got support on the intermediate and on the highest time frame and so on. So biggest component of dollar index, Japanese yen. Or is it the euro? I always get confused. But anyway, one of the two biggest components, Japanese yen, and so that's showing strength of breaking up there. And the euro, same deal. We've got strength going on here since we kind of bottomed at 105 a few months ago. So exhaustion sell, bullish divergence. I'll pull back to end of trends on the intermediate time frame, come in there. We break into this strength and uptrend. There's our low risk entry point. Right down there, 106, and we've been rallying. We're almost at 113. So it's a real strong move in the euro at the moment. Now, the pound has also been rallying. Same thing, exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence come in on this left shoulder. We start to break into an uptrend going on here. So we got some strength going on. I was saying that 120 was the line in the sand they defended. We've got up to 130. The highs here, what were they? 30 and a half, something like that. However, we got British elections kind of coming up in the next couple of days, and just I want to draw your attention to this one thing. We have gone quite a long way past support on the highest time frame. We will probably have to rally back, put in a pullback and a downtrend, resistance level, and trade back down to the end of trend. That point will be marked when we get a cross on the highest time frame here. When that starts to roll over and then cross and go the other way, that'll be our pullback to end of trend on the British pound. That is due, and we've got the elections here at the same time. So I think election news is going to draw that resistance line wherever it prints. I don't know if we're going to get a rally into an area where they kind of then take profits and push it down and test the 120, or whether we're just going to roll over from the election results and so on. Don't know, but that's going to play in over the next several days and week or so. And play down to this pullback to end of trend and testing the British pound. So although I was pretty keen on the pound a few months ago, and I was talking about EWU, I think is the ETF on the UK stock market, as being a good buy. At the moment, I see the euro as being a stronger currency than the pound, just because we got that likely resistance that's going to set up at some point. So there we go. So that's equities and bonds and dollar index. Now today's activity, finally we get some resolution on precious metals. They have been showing strength, but not really kind of going anywhere much. Finally, I think we've got some resolution that we're going to go for a rally in gold. With the precious metals, I'm kind of in the camp with Martin Armstrong that they kind of rally on political uncertainty. And I think, there's stories coming out of Qatar, I used to, as a kid, I think we called it Qatar. Now it seems to be Qatar that everybody says. But anyway, so, the kind of problems in the Middle East with Qatar, and the uncertainty kind of going on there. You kind of look around the world, there's all kinds of political problems coming to the fore, pretty uncertain at these times, and that's why I think gold and silver and platinum are starting to rally the precious metals. So again, looking at the system view, this is gold. We had this kind of topping out move, exhaustion buy, bearish divergence flush with our end of trends. We fall into a downtrend here with the white bars. We get caught by support on the highest time frame after exhaustion, sell bullish divergence, and then we've just been messing backwards and forwards, and I've not been very sure on the direction for gold because silver's been the weakest of all of these. But now we've got some strength, and with today's activity we're breaking back through resistances, low risk entry points and so on over the last couple of days. So I think it's time to jump in and do something with gold. Silver, this is why I was kind of a little bit uncertain about the precious metals, because the decline in silver was really marked here. It's quite a different pattern than the gold pattern here, but it didn't break supports down here. We put in a pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. That's that signal there. We got the highest time frame here. It's all showing red. Down here these were blue professional bars, kind of getting in here, and we've broken above the blue professional bars there. So I think gold and silver, we're kind of on our way to continue the rally and test up into the highs. And also platinum, I also like looking at platinum because the three of them together are the precious metals kind of group, and I think that's another kind of interesting chart to look at, with blue professional bars coming in here at the lows, because the lows hold, we break through the highs. On this is a U-turn here, so where they kind of pick it up on the way down and then are anxious to get into it on the way up here. We break through the highs again. It is showing white bars and weakness at the moment, but as soon as we start breaking above this 969 level, that'll break us into strength, and then potentially above 1,000, kind of get platinum kind of going. So I think all of those precious metals, all of a sudden with today's activity, that kind of becomes clear. How to play those, I actually think the GDXs, the miners and the junior miners are the charts that are kind of most interesting. So here's GDX. This is a gold mining ETF, and you can see this blue professional bar here with today's activity. They wanted that badly. That's a jumping the creek kind of move, blue professional bar through resistance. We've got some strength kind of going on here with red bars. We've got all of these exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, flush patterns in the background. Bang, this is kind of getting ready to take off on the way up. The junior miners, this is GDXJ, same kind of thing. It wasn't a blue professional bar, still sitting with kind of weakness kind of down here, but it shows the same type of pattern, just setting up after kind of testing these lows down in the 30s. And we're kind of getting going there. Silver miners, this is SIL. Here we've had some strength over the last few days, and it's kind of a triple almost there, kind of setting up support on all three time frames. We got strength kind of going on, breaking back above 36, 30, whatever that resistance level is there, 36.93, kind of continues the strength and confirmation of an uptrend going on there. So silver miners, junior silver miners, SILJ, same thing. This one actually broke us into an uptrend with today's activity, kind of taking off. And in the background down here, we've got a little blue professional bar down at those lows, kind of picking up those lows. So all of those, I think, are really interesting as a complex kind of going on at the moment. And again, probably driven by political uncertainty about what's kind of going on. The one thing that's been disappointing for me over the last 6 months or so has been, the rally that petered out in crude. I don't know where that's going to go. At some point, I think it will kind of hold and rally. A little bit of strength today in the crude oil chart. But this, the real winners over the last, 6 months or so has been the emerging equities here. Let me turn this version off. This is the assets performance chart where, just turn that off, where we look at some of the major ETFs to judge where the strength and weakness is kind of going on. And over the last 6 months, you can see here we've had emerging market equities and the S&P, the American equities kind of being the strongest of the markets. Commodities, we had this rally in crude, and it was a leading kind of player, but then it's dropped all the way to the bottom of the pack along with government bonds. I think it's time for those to have a little bit of a rally. I think emerging markets is going to maybe just back off a little bit because there's been a stellar run in all of those emerging markets. Been looking at Taiwan and Korea. I've been holding on to China. Russia's been a little bit disappointing because I'm still up on Russia, but it's because it's a emerging markets and a crude play. And crude is kind of just disappointed over the last several months. But it could be time for a little bit more kind of rebalancing with the government bonds and the commodities kind of jumping a little bit and a little bit of profit taking in emerging market equities and equities going on there. This is the crude chart. You can see it's all white at the moment, having we hit resistance up here. We had exhaustion by bearish divergence, and that weakness kind of came in there. I know we've got cyclical support kind of in due. Let's see, we've got a blue professional, spike down here. This whole area needs to hold and rally back up through 51s, through 52s. But, I wouldn't hold my breath. That's not happening quite yet. So natural gas is the other one that you can look at kind of side by side. A little more interested in natural gas at the moment. That's because of this Qatar kind of news, because Qatar is a center for natural gas. I think they've got the largest natural gas reserves in the world there. So blue professional down bars, cyclical support kind of holding. It's showing some red bars at the moment, showing some strength here. So, let's watch this chart carefully over the next few days. So natural gas and crude kind of down there. Then lastly, I don't normally talk about any of the kind of softs, the agriculturals, with corn and wheat. I actually think we've got some potential setups into uptrending breaks with corn and wheat. So I'll just show you that quickly on this chart. Real volatile activity with this move kind of down here with last year. But we're coming into an area where we're trying to find some support, and we've just broken through resistance on the intermediate time frame and potentially the lowest time frame. Not sure about that. Anyway, so we've got potentially having had some strength here and then breaking back into strength after quite a nasty kind of sell-off in corn over last years. So that's starting to find some bottoms. So might kind of look at that kind of going forward. And the last one to show you is wheat. Same thing, kind of exhaustion sells, flush patterns, pullback to end of trends on intermediate time frames and lowest time frames. And it just looks like, kind of a bunch of supports holding here down in the 420s and potentially breaking above resistances and showing kind of the next move in kind of wheat and corn. So those are kind of interesting. We'll see how they play. But with today's activity, it was gold and silver that was really the move of today. I think it's time to take some positions there. Anyway, hope you are doing well and looking forward to the next couple of days trading.